Good evening. What's going on, everyone? All right, here we go. So today, um, I know it's a little bit later than my other lives, and there's a good reason for it. So today I wanted to talk a little bit and take some time to talk a little bit about something that um is kind of relevant to. I want to check, make sure my mic was on. Want to talk a little bit about something that is relevant to what's been happening over the past few weeks ago. If you're out west, it may not be completely front and center, but if you're pretty much anywhere on the East Coast, um, over the last few weeks, you've basically heard about what's been happening with Hurricane Hurricane Helene, and the impact that it's had on pretty much the whole eastern United States. I mean, literally everybody from Florida all the way up. Obviously, everything that you've seen, going on with North Carolina. My heart goes out to everyone who's been impacted there. But even going on up north of there, Kentucky, Ohio, the New England states. I mean, just everybody. I personally have friends in, where that hospital that was impacted, where they had to evacuate people in Irwin. Family in South Carolina that's been impacted. I've got, a cousin who went up to North Carolina to provide uh, help provide materials and supplies. So, it's just, I don't know. I'm just kind of speechless about that. But one of the ways, I guess, is a better way of putting it. One of the ways that I kind of want to give back is through my knowledge. And there's homeowners that are dealing with these events, whether it be power outages, whether it be, um, you know, having to preserve a lot of, if they have food, if they are, having to preserve their home, their livelihood, if they work from home. And so a question that is on a lot of people's minds, and I understand, this hopefully this doesn't come across the wrong way for those who have lost everything. And like I said, I'm trying to give back the best way that I know how, um, is helping people once they are in a position to be able to continue to look forward. And so the question that I want to answer tonight is there a better way that I can protect my home, my family, and our needs during an emergency moving forward? You know, um, Earlier this year, I was talking about battery backups. If the grid buckled from, people running their air conditioning. And there was a time, out in Texas where people were being asked to not run their air conditioning all the time. And people laughed, and parts of Texas's grid collapsed, just like it did during the cold a few years ago. But then we look and see, where people don't have power because of um because of the hurricane, because of side impacts, and we go, well, we got spared. I have so many people here in Georgia that are like, I got spared. I didn't have to buy a generator. Um, and this, that, and the other. And it's like, no, that's not the right way to look at it, because the moment that you're not spared, you're going to be wishing you had looked into some kind of solution. And so, one of the things I want to talk about tonight is around the idea, around the concept, and around information describing solar batteries. Okay. Or batteries as part of a solar system. And so, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about that tonight is, yes, in regards to what's happening with regards to North Carolina and Florida and South Carolina and what have you, but also because these things are developing at the speed of light. And there's a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation, but a lot of information as well floating around. And it's kind of hard to decipher what's really true and what's not. And I take great pride in me being in a position and me being a professional to know what's true and what's not. And anyone could sit in here and say, don't listen to these people or don't listen to those people, because of, whatever, and just kind of sling stuff out there. But I take great pride in, one, having my sources cited first and foremost, because you can never be too sure. But two, I put the time in to actually make sure that what I'm saying is the truth, and or at the very least, it's the truth right now. Now that may change if you watch this, a week from now. That may change if you watch this a year from now. Certainly, it's going to change if you watch this a year from now. But what I want to bring to your attention is the latest and greatest of what's happening right now. Tonight, October 3rd, 10 p.m. Eastern, right now. Okay. So today, I want to dig into the facts. I want to cut through the noise, and I want to just try and provide you with some information, because if you are in that position where your house has been spared, you didn't lose everything, but maybe you were without power for, I know many people in my hometown in Toccoa, surrounding counties, Habersham, Franklin County, Hart County, White County, Madison County, North Georgia, they got hit pretty hard with the hurricane, and they got a lot of rain, but they got hit in the way that they lost power. And if they didn't have a generator, they were without power for upwards of about a week. And in some areas, not all the time, but in some areas, and South Carolina as well. So I want to kind of talk about tonight about what you can do to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Um, so yeah, so let's dive right in. And if you have questions, again, I know it's late at night, but you may be watching this in bed, you may be watching this on the couch. If you have questions, pop them in the comments. I've got it up right here. I can see, and would love to, answer them in real time if I'm able to. And if not, I'll be more than happy to go back and do my research, and then I'll answer them whenever I am able to. So, first and foremost, let's talk about why solar batteries are even considered in the first place. I mean, you've got generators, you've got, you can use your car battery, so to speak. There's all kinds of alternatives. So why solar batteries? Well, power outages in general, like the ones that happen, like I just got in talking about, um, have brought up some pretty interesting questions around the reliability of the grid. And I've done, videos about that specific topic in the past. But this brings up another whole nother point that is even outside of the control of the utility grids. It's outside of the control of the linesmen. Thank goodness for their support and being able to get these homes back on the grid and back with the lights on as soon as they have been able to, because I know firsthand they've been working day in and day out. But it's not just about the hurricane. I mean, literally every single time there is a major weather event, the risk of losing power is real and it happens. I mean, think about the ice storms we had earlier this year. Think about, what could happen potentially as the weather starts getting colder and colder this fall and into this winter. And so the reason why I immediately go to solar batteries is because solar batteries are designed to store energy in tandem with that energy that's generated from solar panels. And it could be panels that are on your roof, it could be panels that are in the backyard. And so when the grid goes down, your home can keep running off of that stored energy. And trust me, as I'm saying these words, I understand how common sense that sounds. But the way that I want you to think about it is in the same light as a generator. And I want to kind of talk about the differences between those two, because there are some underlying differences that are pretty major. If you think about it as a backup generator, I'm going to talk about other differences, but if you think about that one first and foremost, it's the first one that kind of comes to mind. Well, I can buy, a $500 generator. Okay, that's great. Meanwhile, you're sacrificing a number of things. You're sacrificing, if you're just getting a generator capable of backing up the refrigerator, then you're pretty much sacrificing everything else. And if it's been hot as Hades outside, then at the very least, you're going to have to upgrade it to power the refrigerator and the AC. If you get something that powers the internet, or not the internet, because internet is mostly going to be down if if the power is out. But if you get something that powers the fridge and the AC, well, then you might as well spend a little bit more to power the televisions. I mean, yeah, maybe you can't run the internet, but maybe you have cell service and you can run it off of a hotspot or something. My point is, if you're doing all of that, you might as well take a look at solar batteries and solar panels, because first and foremost, they're cleaner, they're quieter, and they're a heck of a lot more efficient. You're not dependent on diesel or on gas. You don't have to go fill it up in the middle of the night, or God forbid, what we're seeing right now, people going and hoarding at gas lines and all that kind of stuff. So, it takes all of that out of it. And one of the biggest things for me is solar batteries. One, they're about yay thick, maybe a little bit thicker, about depending on, you know, 6 8 inches thick, um, depending on the size and capacity, obviously. But the batteries that we have these days are have a if they have any moving parts, they're a lot less. And so the likelihood that it's going to break and the likelihood that it's going to go down in the event that you're still having to use it is a lot less. And so let's say you drain that sucker in the middle of the night, you always have room for a backup. And the next day, instead of having to go out and get more diesel, having to go out and get more gas, you wait a couple hours for the sun to come out. Even on a cloudy day, I promise, if it's raining, if it's cloudy, like even if it's snowing, it's going to produce something. And that's a whole different topic for a whole nother conversation, but it's going to produce something. And when it does, it's going to start filling up those batteries if you're not using it inside. If you're using it inside, then you're using it. I don't know what to tell you there. But if you're not using it, say you're at work or say you're, just able to keep the lights off because the sun's out and whatnot, it's going to start filling up those batteries. And that is essentially free energy. Okay. The next thing then that comes up that people hear about is cost. They automatically assume solar panels, boom, expensive as hell. And yeah, that can be if you have, let's say, a 4 or 5,000 square foot home that you're trying to power off grid, right? But it wasn't just, a few short years ago that batteries started dropping significantly. I mean, they have seriously come a long way. The batteries themselves, specifically. Solar panels, I mean, you can buy them. I mean, it's ridiculous how cheap you can get them. I've seen panels you can buy for 30 cents a watt, stuff like that. 45 cents a watt. Batteries, I was reading something the other day. The cost of a solar battery has dropped, I think something like 90% over the last 15 years. And so, that right there, you might as well go ahead and look into it, if for no other reason than to say, okay, well, I looked into it, but I'm going to go ahead and go with a diesel generator or a gas generator or a propane generator or whatever, But let me throw something else out there, because a lot of people listen to this and say, well, 15 years, okay, that's a long time. It's a decade and a half. But listen to this one. According to the NREL, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, okay, the cost of solar batteries has dropped nearly 70% over the last 5 years. Okay. So you can say 90% over the last 15 years, but it took 10 of those years to drop 20%. And then over the last 5 years, it's dropped 70%. So you can kind of start to see this, where this is headed. And don't get me wrong, it's still got a price tag and it's still an investment. But guess what? That's going to increase the value of your home. It's going to provide for the protection of your family. And it's not nearly as out of reach as it once was. We have financing options now that make it comparable, if not much cheaper than your light bill is right now that you're going to pay irregardless. Plus, when you factor in the federal income tax credits, state rebates where applicable, a lot of homeowners are finding that it really does make financial sense, especially when you start looking at long term savings, when you look at the frequency of these types of storms that are occurring more and more, over the years. And so when you start looking at that in regards to long term savings, then the next question that I get a lot of is, okay, well, but these things don't last very long. Or how long do these things actually last? Well, I have some good news. Solar batteries today are lasting longer and longer and longer with each passing year. Most these days, most solar batteries these days come with warranties that cover 10, sometimes upwards of 15 years. I know Franklin batteries, 15-year warranty. And the industry standard, okay, so your next question will be, or next claim or whatever will be, oh, well, they just don't last that long. Well, the industry standard is that batteries will retain at least 70 to 80% of their capacity over that 10 to 15 years. And if you go with something like a lease that's going to replace it in the event that it gets damaged anyway, then the whole entire excuse goes out the window. So, 5 years ago, you might have been looking at shorter lifespans, more frequent replacements, looking at your aunt or uncle or your grandfather's type of solar panels or solar batteries. But today, with advancements in technology, solid state, the same type of batteries that they are using in other applications, you're getting a product that's built to last easily over a decade. I mean, for a lot of people, that type of reliability is worth the investment. I would rather spend 50 grand on that than on a swimming pool, or on something else that may or may not provide the value. At least I know that I'm going to get the value, right? And on top of that value, you're automatically getting that peace of mind, not something that has to be built up over time. And you're getting that peace of mind that it's going to provide right off the bat during those stormy months or during those icy months, especially what's happening here in Georgia. So that's what I want to talk about. That's really where I wanted to hit home. But now I want to kind of talk about something a little bit different that maybe we don't think about whenever we're talking about today's technology. And that's why I want to kind of rewind a little bit, right? So I want to go back about 3 years ago. Back then, solar batteries were still pretty new on the residential scene. Like, if you got a solar battery, it was because you were either a doomsdayer or you had a mansion, something, or you were trying to go off grid. That was basically the biggest thing. And you were paying a premium. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But today it's a whole different ballgame. Today's batteries, like I said, they're more efficient. They store more energy. So they have a lesser footprint, a smaller footprint. They're more affordable. We've seen improvements in how much energy they can store. Think about these things, the strides that these things have made just over the past 10 years. and batteries are making bigger leaps and bounds. And I think the biggest difference now is you can fully integrate a battery seamlessly into your solar system and it just works. Like I had a colleague of mine someone who I know in the industry, and he was telling me of a family, I think they were up in the Virginia area, where they had some storms come in and their neighborhood lost power. Well, they're sitting down at dinner, they've still got lights on, and it was a good 45 minutes or so before a neighbor called and was like, "Can we come over to your house?" And they're like, it's like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And they're like, sure. What's up? They're like, well, we don't have power. And you're the only one on the block with your lights still on. So can we come hang out? And they're just like, oh, dang. Like they had no idea. They were sitting there eating dinner, lights on, TVs on, like just chilling. And yeah, but I want to take it an even step further. I want to go back 5 years. 5 years ago, really, solar batteries weren't even a thing on people's radars. They were expensive, they were clunky, huge, massive. I mean, the panels were big. You can only imagine how big the batteries were. And if they were going outside, you had to protect them. If they were going in the garage, you couldn't fit a car in alongside of them. So think about how long technology has come. And 5 years ago, you might have needed 2 or 3 batteries just to cover your basic needs. I'm talking about just the refrigerator, let alone anything else. Well, today, you've got all of this technology, you've got all of these different types of ways of running, of having this battery storage technology. One battery can do the work that multiple batteries used to be able to do. And again, the prices have dropped considerably. That was 5 years ago. 15 years ago, forget about it. That was 5 years ago. So that's really the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about. I know there's a lot else going on. I mean, you've got the climate laws that were passed a few years back. There's a lot of political stuff going on about, does it work? Does it not work? All this kind of stuff. But my goal here is not to get into any of that. I'm not here to push an agenda. My goal is to give you the facts, to help you stay informed. And ultimately, even if I do provide a solution and give, some kind of, what we do is we give a free energy savings audit to homeowners who are interested to look into it. And even then, we're not pushing it on them. If they want to move forward with it, we're happy to help them do that and build it out and get it installed. If they're not, if now is not the right time, hey, cool. Now at the very least, now you have the numbers. You've seen what it looks like for your house specifically. I'm not talking about 3 doors down. I'm not talking about over the next county. I'm talking about for your specific house that no one else is going to know anything about. Think about it. If someone tried to tell you, well, don't get that credit card because, it didn't work for me, so it's not going to work for you. How do they know? Do they know your budget? Do they know how much energy that you use? Do they know if if you have an electric vehicle, if you charge your car every night? Do they know, if you sleep with the TV on? They have no idea. So whether you choose to use this tool or not is completely up to you. But if you don't know the specific numbers of how it will impact you and your budget and your energy needs, how can you make a decision? Right? So I'll leave you with this. Going back to the title and the truth about solar batteries, whether or not they're worth it. The only person that can make that decision is you. I believe that they are, but again, it really depends on your personal needs and your specific situation. The most important part is that you have the knowledge to make the right choice for you and your family and y'all's protection. So I'll leave this in passing just so that, again, you have the knowledge and you know where to find it if you need more of it. If you are ready to learn more, and if you want to explore how it could protect you and your family and what exactly it can cover. And again, if you want to take a look at a free energy savings audit, I've got a website that you can go to, solar, SOLAR dreamlifeinnovations.com. And you can go on there. There's an ebook that talks about it. There's a whole section on there that talks about battery backups and electric vehicles and all kinds of stuff. You can just let your mind go wild. But if you want to see something specific for you, there's also a form on there that you can print out, or that you can fill out rather, and you can set up a date and time. I'll get a little bit of information from you. Nothing that, I could do anything with other than maybe pay your bill, which who knows, maybe I can do that too. But that's it. And then I can put together something for you to see. No hard sell, no arm twisting, just knowledge that you can use whether you decide to or not. And like I say all the time, at the end of the day, knowledge is power. And, if it's in your hands, then that's the safest place for it to be. Okay. So with that being said, that's all I have for you this evening. I hope everyone has a great evening. Like I said, it's a little bit later than normal, but I wanted to get on here tonight and really kind of talk about something that's been weighing on me. And so I wanted to put it out here for you to hear as well. So hope it was valuable. And until the next time, I'll see you around.